launched a couple of new foils in the last couple of weeks, so I figured we should kick off talking about those. The first one I want to talk about is this new X Series front wing, the 810 front wing you've launched. How long have you been working on that, and how did you know it was the next sort of logical step? And just sort of give us a bit of an overview about it.
No worries. So pretty much all of us are heavily into surf foiling who work for Code. The S-Wing that we kind of released Code with is a great all-round foil, but we were looking for something that would surf better and probably sacrifice a bit of the pumping ability. That's kind of what brought it about. And we started with a foil, just went lower aspect version of the S and then went from there. It took us a lot of prototypes and 12 months. It was first leaked at Hood River last year, and we just had Hood River this year to give you an idea. Like that's how long it's taken. And we actually drew up the first one 3 months before Hood River last year. So it's actually a fair bit longer than a year. Funnily enough, with this project, the first one was really good, and it was a huge decision to not just release it. We kind of were like, we can't just release one. We have to make more at least and make sure that it is great and that we can't make it better. And then about 8 or 9 versions later, we made it better. I think still our second favorite one was the first one. So, and the one we released might have been 5% better. So it's a funny thing to have such a good thing so early and to not release it and go, I think we can make it better. And then it takes 12 months just goes by like that. And then you're like, okay, now we can release it. It's a really good feeling when it does come out though, because you know that you've ticked all the boxes, you've gone through a bunch of stuff. I mean, you could keep prototyping forever and never release anything, but we got to a point where like, this is really good. We all love it. We all love using it and don't really want to use anything else as far as like surfing a wave in any way, whether it not just meaning like prone, it could be, or, even downwind, sort of like free ride where you're not worried about speed or pumping. And yeah, so that's where it fits. I guess we love the S because if you're going to probably travel the world and do a whole bunch of disciplines, the S is probably what I would take, but we wanted something that would just surf better. It doesn't pump as good, that's for sure, but it just surfs so much better. And a lot of people want to sacrifice a bit of pump to surf better. And we were all in that boat. We just wanted to surf better, even if we linked up one less wave. Maybe instead of getting 4 waves each time you catch a wave, it's 3 or 2. And yeah, I get a lot more tired using it, but I still prefer the feeling I get on the wave. So I've sacrificed that. And I'm actually really looking forward to using it on a foil drive because then cancel the pump altogether. All the foil drive guys are blowing up about it because they're like, they don't notice that it doesn't pump as good. Just surfing better.
So why now? Is it the maturity of these foil assists? Is it just logical to have this next foil type in the range, or why not earlier?
I reckon that we would have had it out earlier if we could, but Code, I guess the weird thing about Code is we actually released with one foil, not even one range.
Yeah.
We released with the 850, which, yeah, it's still one of our most sold foils, maybe 3 years later, I think. Well, it must be close to that. So, yeah, it's crazy how relevant that still is. But yeah, there's definitely a place for it. And the people that surf and have got pumping, fully unlocked, they can pretty much make link up waves no matter what they're riding, certain people. And like you said, with the foil drive, that doesn't matter. With the wing, it doesn't matter. So there's a lot of places, even though we probably do more prone than those other 2 disciplines, it's really suited for just being on a wave in any way. It doesn't matter if you're on a prone, but we just found that there's foils that surf better than the S, but don't pump as good. And that's a good thing. Like people want that. And so it has to be done. You're just kind of moving with the evolution of foiling, I guess. And a big part of it as well is that we wanted it. It's a lot of the stuff we make is for us. Like we're foilers and we do pretty much every discipline of foiling. So yeah, we wanted it. We made it. We released it when we were happy with it.
Yeah, I suppose that's
pretty much it.
I mean, that's been the kind of the philosophy from the start in many ways. You guys started with a foil that you really wanted. and designed around what you would use it for, and they got it really right and launched it. You got a good group of people with very experienced foilers in the team itself, so you've got a pretty good
Yeah.
sense of what people are using and what people need out there.
Yeah, I think so. The tricky bit with, I guess, our team has grown to adding Josh. Like Josh was a huge inclusion for us. And it's funny because Josh is, I would say, one of the nicest prone foilers to watch, and James is obviously, very good as well. If you watch that, I think it's the first turn on our marketing for the X foil. It's just ridiculous. It's the only other person I've seen doing that in real life is Bennett's, and it's mind blowing to watch someone sort of skid or air slightly into a foam section. But it's funny because we do have these guys in the team, but you've got to remember when you're designing it and thinking about releasing it that there's a handful of these guys that are going to buy it, and then there's thousands of people that can't do any of that stuff. So that's probably where we listen to their feedback. But then there's also like mine and Ben's and Dan's feedback where we're much closer to that normal foiler's ability. And then we also really try and get lots of people on the foils. Like here locally, we got Pyros on it quite a lot on the foil drive, and the more feedback, the better. It's all relevant. It doesn't matter if you're good or not, or in this case, or Josh Kerr.
Yeah.
So it's probably more relevant, to be honest. So to be able to unlock more performance for those guys, but also it has to be good and usable for the majority as well.
Yeah, I suppose, and that that's one of the challenges is you're all really good foilers. So if you're not careful, you end up making quite high end, high performance foils. So you didn't need that balance from other people, kind of the average foiler speaking up and adding to that in the designs.
Yeah, that's something I probably picked up early working with James for so long with boards, even before foiling. And because boards are quite unique where like someone like James can stand and balance and on anything, paddle up anything, So I started almost listening to a bit more of my own voice when we were prototyping designs and stuff than Jimmy's. Jimmy's is still relevant, but like he's a freak, especially on a SUP. He was a pro SUP racer before they had foils attached to him. So yeah, it's totally right. It's just finding the balance of who you listen to. They're all relevant, but it's just getting as many people on the foils as possible is super important for us.
And you've launched a 1725 in the S series, which is your biggest foil that you've done so far. And that's in your all-round front wing series. What niche is that fulfilling? Who's the kind of rider for that foil?
Yeah, we saw a lot of kind of spots for this foil in the range. It's a really good thing, like tool for someone to learn to dock start or paddle up, in the flat if you're trying to unlock that skill, which is a really good one to have if you're trying to learn to downwind. Like to our surprise, actually, after we released it, a bunch of the team riders got on it and used it in super light wind, winging or para winging and loved it. So yeah, I think it's kind of for everyone in a different way. And it just depends how keen you are. Some people, if it's 10 knots, will go do something else.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm one of them. Unless it's 20 knots, I'm not going to go winging.
Yeah, sure.
Or, for me, it's probably something that I would use to dock start easy and try and get a bit of time, pumping around. Or I learnt to beach start years ago and I haven't done it for maybe 4 years. And I'd love to try it again with that because I think that's the foil. And I know Josh kind of just learnt to do it as well on that. He had the 1540 and he got close and I think he even got successful and then he got this foil and he was off. So
yeah,
there's a lot of places for it. It doesn't have to be for the learner or anything, but it's cool. Visiting Europe as well. We've kind of been visiting different spots of the world since we started Code, and it's you kind of get your eyes opened a little bit to how different the world is to the little bubble that you foil in, So, and you realize you need this stuff, and if you want to sell foils in Europe or places where it's just different
conditions,
different levels. Foiling got picked up later in a lot of spots as well. So it's been good. It's been interesting because it got released at the time of the 810. I think there was a lot of hype around it, but it's still done really well. So it definitely seemed like it was needed in the range.
I see pump foiling's getting pretty popular. And as you say, we live in our bubble, and my bubble is one you're familiar with, which is Western Australia. certainly
Yep.
during the winter months. So it's got crazy. We've got ferries traveling down the Swan River now with up to 8 people behind them, maybe more,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
from 4 lives to people jumping off jetties, and more people are doing it. So
We got to Switzerland this year, and we're doing a little tour to some of our dealers, and I was nervous about going there because it wasn't our scene. It was dock starting,
yeah,
and I'm definitely not a skilled dock starter. And I was like, we might get a bit embarrassed here. It was so fun. They were super accepting. We got the dock starting pretty quickly, but it was so fun. They get this huge cruise down at the dock. People bring food down, and they actually do all these weird freestyle things and stuff. It was crazy. It ended up being one of the most enjoyable stops on the whole trip. And we did a downwind race in Barcelona. We went to England and prone surf, beautiful conditions. It blew me away. It was really cool.
and they've got growing competition area now for the racing for dock starting. And as I say, there's freestyle now, people doing full backflips and all sorts of stuff. It's crazy, amazing stuff.
It's crazy, yeah.
So for those that aren't as familiar on the rest of your range, just really briefly, you've got the X, you've got the S, you've got the R, and you've got your masts, etc., your fuselages. Can you just talk just briefly across the code range, just to finish that kind of what's available for people in code?
Yep. So I wouldn't really classify anything as it's for a certain discipline, but
Yep.
I would just look at them like you've got the X at the lowest aspect, and as a result, the lowest glide and probably the lowest lift for the area. And then you go to the S, which is a slightly higher aspect, but not high aspect, just bit more glide, bit more pumpability, a little bit more lift. So for example, with those two, your 810X is probably the equivalent to your 720 or a little bit more, but it's actually closer to the 720 than it is the 850. And then you go to the R series, which is high aspect, so more glide and more lift for the area. And the reason I don't really pigeonhole them anymore, I never really thought that the R series would be used for anything but maybe downwind. But we have so many people on the code team and just like punters who might email us, whatever, and people love using the small R's in waves and stuff. I've kind of now just kind of put them in categories of almost like aspect ratio and lift and glide more than anything, because it just is, there's definitely no rules to what you use. I've discovered, even though we kind of think these things, you soon realize that people love surfing a 13 aspect ratio foil, which it's not my cup of tea, but people love it. And I guess it's kind of part of exploring what you like, because your conditions will be different to mine. And it's super interesting listening to what people use and why they use it. So, but it's pretty much, you just work from the lowest aspect to the highest aspect, and the characteristics are all, basically less glide to more glide.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time today. Brilliant to chat.
Cool.
I'm sure people
Thanks,
enjoy
Pete.
it.
Good to chat again.
We'll catch up again soon and see what you're up to. Yeah. Cheers.
All right. Awesome.
Okay.